Yeah, I'm Mark Donowitz. I'm at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, where I'm professor of medicine and physiology, as I have been for 35 years. Um, the year that I was president of the AGA was 2006 to 2007, and I'm a standard gastroenterologist in an academic center. I'm a researcher and a clinician and an educator.
So what motivated you to go into the medical field in general, in gastroenterology in specific?
Yeah, so I always thought I would go into medicine. I liked science from the very beginning, but I thought that there would be more to it than just carrying out experiments. And I felt that mixing helping patients as well as doing research would be a wonderful career. I had a model in my family of a physician who was head of hand surgery at McGill. And so that seemed like a good career. And so that direction was never really a question of mine. In fact, I loved mathematics when I was starting college, and spoke to the professor who taught that field to me. And he told me that he only had his PhD thesis read by 2 people. And I felt that I needed a little bit more feedback than that. In terms of picking gastroenterology, that happened quite incidentally. At the end of my second year of medical school, in those days, I was at Hopkins, and what you did with your free time is you did pathology. That was the standard thing. And I ended up doing that in New York City. And the person who was head of pathology was Hans Popper, who is the person who actually initiated the field of hepatology. And he was the first person that took an interest in me as a person and as someone having a medical interest. And during that summer and during the basically 6 months I was there, I learned a lot about gastroenterology and thought it would be a wonderful field, and certainly have never regretted that. That was an easy decision, and I've never looked back on that.
What would you say the best thing about working in this field is?
Well, I mean, certainly there are two wonderful things about this field. Clinically, our patients are helped by what we do medically, though not cured in general, at least the area that I work in, which is chronic diarrheal disease and short gut syndrome. And you basically can make tremendous impact on their lives, decreasing the morbidity of their condition and keeping them alive. And you form long-term relationships with these patients that can go 20 or 30 years, as I've found out. And that is an absolute wonderful thing that comes to the physician, forming relationships where you're helping people, learning about their lives. It's just priceless. And scientifically, there's so many things to learn. We can apply all the modern tools of science. There are many questions that are not resolved in gastroenterology. In fact, so many that it's you have to choose very carefully. And you can make a big impact in making new findings and helping even develop drug therapies. And one of the things we do is try to figure out ways to help develop drug therapy for diarrheal diseases that there aren't any, and we're getting close to having 2. So wonderful, wonderful aspects of the field. In addition, for teaching, a lot of our diseases come from abnormalities in the physiology. And by teaching your students what the normal physiology is and the consequences of the abnormal, it all makes sense to them, and that attracts a lot of students into our field. So at every level, this is a great field.
So I'm curious to know what motivated you to get involved with AGA and serve on the governing board and eventually become president.
Yeah, so well, there are many reasons. The AGA is the society that represents me. I'm an academic through and through, and the AGA certainly represents academics. I'm a clinician. We certainly are very interested in bettering care for our patients and finding out the needs of our clinical people, which I feel that I am. So right from the beginning, right when I became a fellow, I was attracted to the AGA. Have not missed a AGA meeting since the first one I think was in 1968 or something like that, or 69, and it's my society. So as time went on and I was allowed to help review abstracts and take part in various committees, I was able to see the very wonderful work that the people carried out. And so I just was very happy to keep moving up and along the AGA pathway. In addition, the people you meet through being part of the AGA is fantastic, and the social connections were really meaningful. And some of my closest friends were developed through the AGA, and I still have tremendous memories of being on a wagon with Martin Brotman when we were talking, when I first got to know him and he got to know me. It was a priceless time, and the AGA is wonderful that way. So very easy to decide that I wanted to be part of it. In terms of why I thought it would be important for leadership at that point, I was head of GI at Hopkins, head of the GI division at Hopkins, and I was trying to build a division in which basic research would be developed along with our clinical expertise. And I felt that this would give me the opportunity to make sure that the people at Hopkins understood the values of the AGA and vice versa, which were the values I was trying to develop. So it was very clear to me that joining leadership would be important for what I was trying to do at Hopkins, and I was hoping that I would be able to communicate some of those values at the AGA leadership level as well.
What do you recollect from your time as president? What kind of issues was AGA focused on?
Yeah, so it was actually kind of a quiescent time. This was when we first started forming good relationships with the American College of Gastroenterology and the Endoscopy Society, as well as the Liver Society. I was very fortunate in that one of the person who was head of the ACG was a person who had worked in my laboratory years before, Grace Elta, even though she had gone on to be the head of clinical gastroenterology and endoscopy at Michigan. She and I had been close friends forever. And we had a very easy relationship that kind of eased things in. So that kind of, to me, was the beginning of good relationships of the three societies. The other things I remember were that it was clear that at that point that the guidelines were really important and they had to be done in an organized manner. And I was able to work with Bob Sandler to begin taking that seriously and organizing that very well at the level of the AGA, which clearly has continued until now. And the other thing I remember is that there was a group of young researchers, an important group called the Gastrointestinal Research Group, that had been really important at the point that it wasn't so clear that the AGA supported research as much as we're currently doing. And that group no longer was able to afford the activities they were carrying out, though they were very important. And we figured out a way to bring them into the GI Society, into the AGA. I started that, and Nick LaRusso was able to complete that, but completing that was an important issue as well. And lastly, I remember that this was the beginning of the challenges of trying to maintain the reimbursement for our procedures, and dealing with the RUP was something that we began during, as far as I remember, during my time, in which we really represented the importance of our procedures to this group, and fought very hard to maintain the value that we were getting reimbursed for.
So you've definitely left your mark on AGA as president and as a leader. I'm wondering what impact leading AGA had on you personally.
Well, I've always been proud of it, so that's one thing for sure. And the friends that I made during that time, the Martin Brotmans and so many people, and really, I mean, that's exceptionally valuable. And, I love seeing these people as I go to the various meetings, and, even personally, we keep up with a bunch of people. So that made a big impact on myself and on my wife. The opportunities that come up when you're president are really wonderful, and gives you a chance to reevaluate what you have as your goals and what you want to do. And I still remember that Emmett Keefe and I, who are very close friends, everybody is very close friends with Emmett, most wonderful guy probably that anybody has ever known. And he and I kind of were talking to each other quite frequently about how we wanted to change our directions based on the opportunities that came out of being president of the AGA. And Emmett, who had been head of renal transplant at Stanford, he was thinking that he wanted to run a journal, which he did, and he wanted to try to develop more drugs. We were aiming for a life with pharma, which he began. And I, was part of the same conversations and was offered wonderful opportunities to leave Hopkins and run basic science departments. And there was actually an opportunity to become a major person in a pharma. And I decided that I liked leading research groups and carrying out research, and decided that I wanted to continue doing what I was doing, and have continued doing that. And I've been very happy with that decision, and the fact that I had to think about it so carefully before deciding on that direction. So the opportunity was given by the AGA, and I'm very pleased that I had the opportunity to continue what I'm doing.
Do you have any advice for the leadership of AGA today or tomorrow's leadership?
Thanks. In terms of where I see the AGA right now and where I see it going, I think we have to ask, what are the terrible challenges that our field is facing and will continue to face? And I mean, it's almost at every level. I mean, physicians, clinicians are being forced to hustle faster and move quicker and see more patients, and not only because of demand, but because of the need to maintain their income. So I think that we're all unhappy the way clinical medicine is going, driven by these medical records where you check off the boxes rather than think or communicate with the patients sufficiently. So I hope the AGA can take that on and say, hey, this is not right, and we've got to do something about fighting back against it. And did we really achieve anything or achieve much by using these the box checkoff system, which I think is so destructive. So that's the one area I think that the AGA has to fight about. I think that bench science is diminishing in many places in terms of the institutions that are capable of carrying it out. And it started at, there of the 100 and something medical schools, it started at some of the less research intensive ones, and is creeping upward and involving some of the very major places. And even in a place like Hopkins, I very worry about whether basic science can survive in the current environment. And I think the AGA has to take that on and fight very hard for the fact that our field needs basic science. We're nowhere near in terms of our understanding of disease or physiology or pathophysiology. And if we don't fight hard to allow basic science to thrive, then we're not gonna make the kind of advances that we need to carry out to help our patients. And so those are the two major areas that I would urge the AGA to really work hard on and direct a lot of their resources to.
Any advice for young folks who are considering a career in gastroenterology?
Sure, go for it. This is a wonderful field, and you can do anything you want to do in this field. You can teach, you can do research, you can do basic or clinical, you can see all kinds of patients. You can pick any area that you want to be a specialist in, a subspecialist in, and become a world expert relatively quickly and make a big impact at many levels and form wonderful relationships. So I think our field is great. You know, it's luckily for us, it's a field in which you don't have to think about how much money you're going to make, or you can think about it, but you're going to make a good living no matter what aspect you select to carry out. And it's fun. It's rewarding from a patient point of view. It's fun from a research point of view. And just pick out what you're interested in. You don't have to do everything, that's for sure, but make sure you pick an area that you're interested in and pursue it.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to share that I haven't already asked you about?
No, I just would like to emphasize again that the time with the AGA was wonderful and rewarding at many levels. And that while you feel you're really helping the field in the multiple things that we're able to do and helping our members, the benefits we get by taking part with such a wonderful group of people has to be thought of as one of the most important and wonderful aspects of that activity. And I would advise any gastroenterologist to think hard about how they can get involved with this wonderful society. It's definitely worthwhile.